Welcome back to this summary study of the Brhad Bhagavatamrta. Now we're beginning volume 3 of the Brhad Bhagavatamrta. And this volume, Gopa-kumara goes to Dvaraka. And then after Dvaraka, he goes back to Raja Bhumi. And then from there, he goes to Goloka and actually enters into Krishna's pastimes. So his chanting of his mantra, the 10-syllable mantra, comes to fruition, and he's able to actually be with Krishna as a cowherd boy in Goloka. We're in chapter 5, and in this chapter he enters Dvaraka and he gets some instructions from Narada Muni. Chapter 5 is a long chapter, so we're going to cut it up in 2 parts, and that way we'll be able to reveal a little bit more and hopefully be able to get some nectar out of this and encourage you to dive deeper into the Brhad Bhagavatamrta. Gopa-kumara, he goes to Dvaraka. He sees the Yadavas and he sees some Brahmins and their families. He sees children playing. So these Yadavas, they get Gopa-kumara and they bring him to the assembly hall where Krishna is at. In this assembly hall, Narada Muni is there, Uddhava is there, the Yadava is there, his family members are there. There are sages headed by Brigamuni, and there are demigods that are headed by Indra. When Gopa-kumara sees Krishna in this assembly, he faints. And Uddhava comes and picks up Gopa-kumara and he consoles him and he brings him very close to Krishna. And at one point, Krishna extends his leg, and then Uddhava carefully touches Gopa-kumara's head to Krishna's lotus feet. Gopa-kumara picks up there, speaking to the Mathura Brahmin. He said, "The Lord of my life then stroked me with his lotus hand, as if to cleanse each of my limbs. He took the flute from my hand and looked at it, and apparently in great distress, he silently shed tears. The next moment the Lord asked, 'Is all well with you? Is your health good? I hope the place you came from is free from any misfortune.' While speaking this way, he again began to feel disturbed, and Uddhava had to calm him." Sanatana Goswami explains that Krishna said, "I hope the place you come from is free from any misfortune." He says he's talking about Vrindavan. He's saying, thinking, Gopa-kumara looks like a cowherd boy. He must be coming from Vrindavan. Everything fine there. So, because of seeing Gopa-kumara and having the flute in his hand, he starts to feel these emotional. And so Uddhava, understanding the situation, wants to bring Krishna to his inner chambers, to his private quarters. He asked all those individuals in the assembly hall to go on their way, and they all enter into Krishna's private chambers, along with his wives, his children, and with Uddhava. And Uddhava also brings Gopa-kumara with him. Now, Gopa-kumara, when he enters this chamber, the private quarters, he gets a vision. He says that as he enters, "I saw the Lord appearing before me as if adorned by the company of Yashoda and all the beautiful young gopis and the many young cowherd boys. Seeing the object of my meditation holding my flute in his hand, I again fainted, overwhelmed by delight." So like Devaki became Yasoda. His children became like cowherd boys. The queens became like gopis. So for a moment there, he saw this vision and he fainted. When he regained his consciousness, he saw that everything was as it was before. It was Krishna and his queens. And they wanted Krishna to eat, but Krishna was refused to eat. He didn't want to eat. So it took his mothers to convince him that he should eat. So they brought the prasadam in. And Krishna had all of his sons and everybody to sit in a circle. And he had Balaram sit in the center. And then they all ate. And they took the remnants of Krishna. And Krishna also fed Gopa-kumara. And also Uddhava got the remnants of the Lord's Maha. At one point, Krishna gestures to Uddhava. And Uddhava brings me to his home. And Sanatana Goswami explains that Krishna thinks it's better that the Gopa-kumara stays with Uddhava, a little bit away from all the opulence of Dvaraka. Now, Gopa-kumara spent some time there. He was filled with delight, and he couldn't believe the glorious wonders of Dvaraka. It said that the happiness found in liberation is said to be supreme. Multiplied millions of times, it might be said to equal the joy of Vaikuntha. And if any joy still greater can be conceived, it is that which is found in Ayodhya. But the joy born in Dvaraka, how can anyone begin to describe it? He's explaining this to this Mathura Brahmin, his experiences of each one of these places he's visited. So as he's spending time there, walking around, some of the Yadavas, they approached Gopa-kumara and they suggested he change his clothes. They're thinking that being dressed as a dweller of the forest, as a cowherd boy, might not be so suitable for Dvaraka. This is a place of very opulent. And Gopa-kumara declines their offer and decides to remain dressed as a cowherd boy. And then one day, Narada Muni, he comes to Uddhava's house. And he says to Uddhava, he noticed that I was still discontent and distressed at heart. He says, just see, Uddhava, the cowherd son born at Govardhan is seeking something unachievable for persons like you and me. Greatly agitated, he wanders here and there, never anywhere transcending the painful distress that is fixed in his heart. Narada Muni, he glorifies Gopa-kumara's spiritual growth, the humility that he's been developing, and the determination that has taken him to get this far. And Narada Muni, he continues to speak. He says that abode, he starts to reveal Goloka to Narada Muni, that there's still another place higher than this because of Gopa-kumara's discontent. He said that abode can be reached only through the purest prema, similar to the prema of the residents of Raja. One achieves that prema only by thinking of the Lord as one's dear friend. That love is higher than found in the material worlds and the outer coverings of the universe, and higher than in the spiritual kingdom beyond. He says that Ayodhya resembles Vaikuntha, and Dvaraka is greater than Ayodhya. Krishna has arranged for Goloka to be very far away. Sanatana Goswami says that even in Vaikuntha, Ayodhya and Dvaraka are in hidden places. And Vrindavan is even more secret because of Krishna's pleasure pastimes. Each one are secretly located in Vaikuntha. He says, when Bhagavan Krishna, Lord of Goloka, wants to enjoy his various pastimes of the highest prema, at the end of Dwapara Yuga, he descends to the material world in that special place. He descends complete with all his partial expansions. Now he starts to describe the Goloka Vrindavan. This is the Vrindavan where Gopa-kumara has come from. He was born at Govardhan. Narada Muni, very briefly, he describes Krishna's different pastimes in Vrindavan on earth. He explains the special excellence of its master Krishna. He says, seeing him, the cows, birds, bushes, creepers, and trees, they all become ecstatic. Now he mentions Putana, Agasura, stealing butter and being tied to a mortar. How he broke the cart with his tender foot at the age of 3. How he killed Trinavarta and Vatasura and Bakasura, and how Brahma was stealing the calves. And how the Lord disposed of Denakasura and his relatives in the Talavan forest, and how he met at dusk with the women of Vraja. How he danced on Kaliya's heads, stealing the clothes of the gopis and begging food from the Brahmins and attracting the Brahmins' wives. And he mentions how the Lord lifted Govardhan Hill. He says, the words of the Upanishads and other Vedic texts come forth from the Lord's own divine mouth, but simply by contact with his bimba red lips. That wooden object, the all-enchanting little bamboo flute, has created a sound more nectarian than the words of the Vedas and any other form of speech. And he talks about how the Gopas and the Gopis, they are completely dedicated to Krishna. He says even further that the Lord's rasa dance disclosed the most confidential secrets of his supreme powers. It embodies the perfection of everything most dear to him. And it reveals the final limit of his supremacy and sweetness. So here he's given a complete picture of Vrindavan while Krishna's there in the earthly pastimes. And here Gopa-kumara is receiving oceans of mercy here from Narada Muni. And he explains that the earthly Braj and that in Goloka, they're the same. And the two realms are only imagined to be different. And just location. He says, who can describe the Vrajavasis' attachment to Krishna? In their pure love, they know the Lord only as the young son of Nanda. And although fully blessed with that love, they spend their time in great distress. My dear boy, how is it that you are so eager to take shelter of the lotus feet of this Gopal Dev and see all those sweet pastimes? Dear brother, you must understand that to attain him is exceedingly difficult, especially because of the sadhana required. Of this, I am fully convinced. Now, Narada Muni, having just said this, he explains the comparison of different human beings in this material world, and he breaks them all down. And to see among all the human beings, only the extreme rarest get the opportunity and even have a desire to achieve this. This is something similar that Sanatana Goswami heard from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. He says that most living entities have no ability to discern good from bad. Humans may have this ability, but only a few human beings have the ability and have proper behavior. Among them, most are seen devoted to wealth and enjoyment. Only very few are serious about dharma and enter into Svarga, the heavenly planets. Of those candidates for Svarga, only a few are intent upon working without selfish desire, and among them, fewer still want liberation. Of the aspirants for liberation, Hardly a few are transcendental, liberated souls. And of those exalted transcendental souls, only a few are dedicated to bhakti of the Lord. And even among the Supreme Lord's devotees, those eager to give their hearts an exclusive friendship to the lotus feet of Sri Madan Gopal are by far the rarest, without a doubt. He says the sadhana and the scriptural statements that teach him should be understood to differ according to the different goals to be achieved. Those performing sadhana, some have the goal to go to Vaikuntha. This is awe and reverence. This is their sadhana they perform. Some want to go to Ayodhya. Some want to go to Dvaraka. And then those rarest few want to go to Goloka. He says, among some of the devotees of Sri Madan Gopal, there are further distinctions still, but I am unfit to describe them. Sanatana Goswami explains in his commentary on that purport, among those with prema, for the lotus feet of Krishna, those with prema, similar to the gopis, are the rarest of all. There is some other difference, Vishesha, concerning some persons with friendship for the lotus feet of Madan Gopal. I am not qualified to discuss this difference. It is most secret, since it is all at the very top. Now, Narada Muni, he turns to Uddhava, and he speaks to Uddhava. He says, he embraces Uddhava, and he begs him with great humility and in a plaintive and prayerful voice, please tell us something about this. Uddhava has been to Vrindavan. He has seen the residents of Vrindavan. He understands how deep their love is for Krishna. So now Narada Muni is wanting him to describe that to Gopa-kumara. At this point, we're going to end this first part of chapter 5, and then we'll begin with Uddhava in the next part. So I hope you develop some taste from this narration, this summary. It helps you dive further into this nectar of the Brhad Bhagavatamrta. So thank you very much. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga.